Hey y'all, come on in the kitchen with me. It's Paula here, quarantine cooking. But guess what? Today, we're gonna continue with Thanksgiving dishes. Each video will be just one recipe. And these are the most requested recipes that I get from y'all. And they're pretty much, very standard. It's things that I fix for my family on Thanksgiving. So, let's see, I think last week I shared with y'all the squash casserole. It's actually the Lady and Son squash casserole, and it's so good and so simple to make. And it's one of those dishes where you can make it a couple of days ahead of time. I have to, when the big bear calls, I have to take his call. Sorry about that, y'all. So we made the squash casserole. Today's recipe is my grandmother Paul's Southern cornbread dressing. Now, some people may call it stuffing. I call it dressing. So let's talk about stuffing for a minute. We have been encouraged to really do away with stuffing turkeys because I don't know what it is, but my dressing would, if I made it too soon, it would sour like in a day. And I can't tell you why, but so you want your dressing to be made, kind of the last minute. You can have everything prepared, and you can have your cornbread cooked, you can have your white bread dried out, but you want to cool it. If you're making it the night before, you just want to make sure that it's not hot when you put it in the refrigerator, that it's completely cooled down, because I think that's one of the things that will make it sour. So this is the one dish we have to be careful with. So, and I still do it to this day, just like my grandma Paul taught me. I think up north they make more of maybe a bread dressing with fruits and nuts. But we don't do any of that down south. We do the sure enough cornbread dressing. So I'm gonna start, and I give you the recipe to make this cornbread, and this is just normal cornbread. It's like self-rising cornmeal, self-rising flour, buttermilk, a couple of tablespoons of oil, and like 2 eggs. So you definitely don't want to use sweet cornbread. If your recipe calls for sugar, just omit it. And if there's some box cornbread mixes out there, and they taste more like cake than cornbread, so stay away from those. Not for your dressing. So I have dried this in the oven. So I'm just gonna tear it up and add to my cornbread, because a little bread is delicious in dressing. And this is really so easy to make. And it's so funny, I hardly make it more than once a year. I make it around Thanksgiving, and I don't know why, because it's easy. It's delicious with chicken or pork. My mama used to make pork and dressing, and you talking about good and rich. Oh my goodness, if you overeat, there's a good chance she's gonna be sick to your stomach, because it was so rich. But ever so good.
Now, what kind of gravy do you do with it?
I do a giblet gravy with my chicken. Now, if I was doing pork, I'd do a pork roast gravy.
And do you put eggs, chopped eggs in?
I sure do. I put sliced boiled eggs in my giblet gravy, and I use the liver and the gizzard. I cook that down tender, and that goes into my gravy. All right, the last thing that Grandma Paul taught me to put in the bread part of our dressing was a sleeve of saltine crackers. And that kicks this dressing up so much. It adds that perfect salty, little salty taste to our dressing. So there we go, every crumb, y'all. And now I made this stock from a wet chicken base. You know, the kind of chicken base that you buy in the jar. And I'll show it to you again, just so you know what I'm talking about. This stuff is so much better than like the bouillon cubes. This is much, much stronger, has more strength. Now, normally I would have bought like the backs, the wings, pieces of chicken from the grocery store, and I would have boiled that and made my own stock for the dressing. But this is kind of a quick fix for dressing, especially if you're kind of getting it together at the last minute. So I just, I use 3 or 4 teaspoons to this much water, and I put it in the microwave, and I got it hot so that that base would melt in. And see, that's what it looks like. This comes in beef, vegetable, pork, and once in a while you can even find a seafood base, but not very often do I have luck with that. So I'm gonna just add this, this stock. Oh, and I'm pouring it everywhere, aren't I, Eddie? How could I miss that big old hole? So, the recipe calls for 7 cups of stock for this much cornbread, but I didn't use 7 cups. I cut back on it a little bit, but I do like my dressing moist. I don't like dried, crumbly dressing. I want it like real moist. So let's see, how much would you say I had? I probably had,
I think it was,
I had probably 5 cups.
maybe just under, maybe, it was either 5 or it was 4.
Yeah.
I got a close-up of it, so.
Yeah, I think it was like 5. All right, so I'm gonna have to make me a little bit more stock. And I wanted a stick of butter. And this is gonna go in there. So that'll make it nice and rich, especially since we're not using the fresh chicken parts. So I'm going to add a little bit more base. So if I were you, I would start out with 7 cups of stock. And you can make the decision whether you want to use all of it or not, depending on the consistency that you like. But this is getting good. I think maybe 1 more cup of stock, and we'll have it. All right, while I'm waiting for that water to get hot, I'm adding in my celery and my onions. I sauteed these on top of the stove in this black skillet. And you don't want to overcook this, because this is going to give you a nice little crunch in your dressing. So you don't want to just kill it. Sorry. And it was, let me see how much celery. 2 cups of chopped celery and 1 large diced onion. And I probably cook that in 2 tablespoons of, a couple of tablespoons of butter. Actually, I think I tell you to just melt a whole stick of butter and cook your onions and your celery in the stick of butter. But I did it a little different. All right, now I want to taste this stock. It's plenty rich enough. Now, this kind of base contains a lot of sodium. So you will want to be careful on how much salt you're gonna put in your dressing. All right, the last thing I'm gonna add, no, you know what? I'm gonna hold off because I wanna taste this, but I can't stand the thoughts of tasting raw eggs. So I'm gonna do this first. I'll add a little bit. I'm gonna add it all. Okay, now that looks so good. How much more would you have said I added, Eddie?
Well,
that last time.
It didn't look like it was a full cup.
It didn't look like a full cup?
Yeah.
All right, so I'm gonna add, let's see, how much does this call for? A tablespoon of poultry seasoning. Oh no, that's sage. Ooh. Whoa. Ooh. If I put that much sage, everybody would run from my table. All right, so I'm putting 1 tablespoon of poultry seasoning. And now I tell you that the sage is optional, y'all. Sage is a very strong herb. And my Aunt Peggy has taught me over the years that she cannot stand sage in her dressing. So I only put a wee little bit. I'm gonna put really a wee little bit. Like that's a half a teaspoon. And that's all I'm gonna put because I don't want Aunt Peggy to be poo-pooing on my dressing. Saying, you put sage in that dressing, you know that's not good in there. So it all depends on your tongue and what you like. And that's the great part of this, because you're the one making it, so you can make it to your satisfaction.
So this consistency, it's almost like a wet oatmeal. Mm-hmm. You want some liquid showing.
Oh, definitely. 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 Now, it's plenty salty enough, and I didn't add 1 speck of salt. And it all came from this. And I am going to add some pepper. And I'm going to add a little garlic powder. Because normally I would use the house seasoning. And y'all know it's got the garlic, the onion powder, salt and pepper. So speaking of onion powder, I know we got the 1 large onion in it, but I'm gonna add a little onion powder. And after I get through tasting this, Eddie, I'm actually gonna add
a splash more
of water because that base was plenty strong. And see, this is gonna get thicker and thicker as it sits. Okay, so let's give it another taste and see if we're... That is really good, Eddie. Plus, we got salt from the poultry seasoning too. Let me see. Let me see what I see with eyes. Thyme, sage, marjoram, rosemary, black pepper, and nutmeg. No, so there was no salt in that. Sage is sage. All right, so in goes the eggs. I'm through doing my taste test. And my grandmama also taught me to save out 1 scoop of raw dressing. And this is to put down in my giblet gravy. And that just gives some texture and a little bit more richness to our giblet gravy. This looks so good. And it's Thanksgiving, y'all. All right, so anyway, I started talking earlier about the food and safety and health. They have recommended that we possibly should stop stuffing our turkey because it will rancid. And the reason for that is that stuffing that's in the center of that turkey, it takes so very long for that heat to get in the very center of that turkey that that dressing has time to become rancid before the turkey will get completely done. So I don't stuff a turkey anymore. I do all my stuffing.
So once upon a time, you did do this amount of dressing inside a turkey?
No, no, you wouldn't use this much.
Okay.
And you would not make it as wet.
Yeah. Because
you're gonna have a lot of juice coming from your turkey. So this would be way too soupy to go inside the bird. You would basically just want to moisten your cornbread and all your bread ingredients. So this is gonna feed a lot of people right here, y'all. Now, if you wanted to, you could go ahead and make this up ahead of time and freeze it. Just don't add the eggs.
And don't bake it yet?
No, don't bake it. Just put this in your freezer raw. And when it thaws, then just fold in your eggs and it's ready to go. So you can't beat that. So no butt shots, Eddie. I'm fixing to put this in the oven and I'm gonna bake it for 45 minutes, maybe to an hour at 350. So y'all, our dressing was in the oven for 45 minutes. And I'm just gonna sneak in here and pull out a bite and show y'all. See, oh, when it's steaming hot. But see how moist it is? It's not like that dressing that you would cut with a knife. You know, see how moist? And hot. It is so hot. And you can see the pieces of onion and celery. They're not overcooked, so we see them there, and we're gonna taste that crunch.
And I can honestly say, out of everything that's ever prepared at your house, no matter how much of that you make, that's the first pan to be empty.
It's delicious, and I want you to taste it, Eddie, because you know what my dressing is supposed to taste like.
Yum.
You like it?
Yes.
But I have to tell you, I really like making my stock from scratch, you know, bony chicken pieces. And I'll throw a lot in the pot because I want it strong. And I'll add the carrots, celery, onion, but you don't have to be particular with it. Just throw it in the pot because we're gonna pull that out. But this is dadgum sure good for a quick way, isn't it? Teresa, you got to come taste it.
I love it.
Let me reach in there and get you a bite. And I think the seasonings, the herbs,
So hot.
I think are perfect. And you actually, I could have actually added all 7 cups of stock.
It's amazing how your recipe works out sometimes.
But you know, I'll formulate a recipe and then I won't never do it the same way twice. What you think?
Very good. I like it. I don't like dry crust.
Me either. This is beautiful and wonderful. And I'm so glad it turned out good. So you are gonna be the queen of the Thanksgiving meal if you make this kind of dressing and bring it to the table. And if you use a wet stock, you might want to just put a little bit more butter in it. Just to make sure. Love and best dishes. Hey y'all, it's Paula Deen. Now, if you enjoyed this video, be sure to like it and click the subscribe button as well as the notification bell to be alerted when I post a video. Love and best dishes, y'all.